The thing is, you can't say because somebody's 65 that they're not a good driver.
No.
Some of our best students, one of my best students was 92. She was absolutely top form.
Who is a mature driver?
We define it as a person 55 and older that obviously has been driving for a number of years and is probably a very, very good driver. What the program is basically is a refresher course, because as much as we don't like to admit it, as we age, certain things happen to our body that affect a lot of the things we do. We measure brake reaction time, depth perception, those sorts of things, give them a little feel for where they're at with that, and then teach them some compensation skills so that they can continue to drive. Just because your reaction time slowed down doesn't mean you have to quit driving. What it does mean is you have to be aware of that and how to compensate for it. But because of the body aging, because we become more frail, if they are involved in a crash, they're more likely to be seriously injured or to be killed. As far as being the cause of crashes, no, they actually aren't. Part of that, a lot of that has to do with the depth perception, with the reaction time.
Is there an age group or category where you say, oh, someone should go get their driving checked?
Well, I'll tell you what we did. We did a survey of our own students for several years under a grant. We asked them, what did they think? They said after the age of 75, they were very much in favor of that. They weren't afraid of that. Our goal is to keep them on the road as long as safely possible, and to allow them to make that decision, to do their own self-evaluation.
You teach them defensive driving, you re-educate them about how to use their vehicle.
Absolutely. Sometimes it can be very difficult. We'll have workshops canceled because we don't have enough students that come in. Part of it is fear. They are afraid we're going to report them to somebody. We don't report to anybody, because that driving is very important, that independence. Once they've taken the class, though, no problem.
They're your ambassadors.
Absolutely, absolutely.
How do you broach the subject?
Well, one of the things that you can do is to ask them if they've noticed a difference in their, are they less confident on the road than they used to be? Because that's one of the things, as these things change, as your reaction time changes, your confidence kind of goes down. If you can talk to them and say, have you noticed some changes? Most of the time people will admit, well, yeah, I've noticed them. I really don't like to talk about it. Then they're more willing to maybe face this. Try to find something that's going to open that conversation up, and not to be judgmental. Say, gee, you're more willing to go to the doctor because you know physically you've changed. This is kind of a checkup for your driving too. We as a society have to make that a broachable subject. It's not something that people have talked about. They've assumed they can keep going. Anybody can, if there is a real concern, anybody can report to Secretary of State and ask for an assessment of somebody, and they will do it. That's in an extreme case. I mean, if you see this car that's all battered up and you know they're hitting the garage and they're bumping the parked cars along the road, yeah, you might want to do something on that. Again, though, I can't stress strongly enough that age alone is not a reason to assume somebody is no longer a safe driver. They may be a different driver. They may be a slower driver, but that doesn't make them an unsafe driver.
What are some self-help things that I can do when I enter into the car before I start driving?
Well, in your life in general, the more active you stay, the more you get out and do things, the more you participate in social events and that. If you're an active person and you're using that mind all the time when you drive, that's going to transfer over. We do a cognition evaluation in our workshop.
What is that?
It's called Useful Field of View. It measures what you see and how quickly you process it. One thing they noticed when they were doing it was people that had just taken an exercise class scored better on the days of their exercise classes than they did on the days when they didn't have the exercise class. The other thing is to be aware, to go in for regular eye checkups. to take a look at your car. Are there a lot of dings and stuff that you're not sure where they came from? Is suddenly the color of your garage all down the side of your car? And this might want to give you a heads up.
If I find out these things, I'm fearful that somebody's going to come and take my license away.
You can restrict yourself on what you do. Okay,
Like-
you've
like what?
noticed.
Okay.
Well, let's say avoiding rush hour traffic. Let's make our appointments earlier or later so that we're not out there. Limit your distractions in the car. I think it's staying aware. We will admit it about just about anything except our driving. We'll admit that, oh, I can't climb a ladder anymore. I can't garden the way I used to. I can't. But
there's a
thank
lot of-
goodness I can still drive. And you need to be aware. I think awareness is probably the biggest thing. Be aware of where you're at and the changes that you're going through. And if you notice something's affecting one part of your life, try to be honest enough to say, could that possibly be affecting my driving too? And maybe I just need to make adjustments. We've also had a whole lot of people that have said, you know what, this class gave me the confidence
More
to go out
tools.
there. Because I'm more aware of what's going on and I'm more willing to look at things and maybe make some changes and maybe I will limit when I drive.
So if if my parent is still driving and I'm concerned about them, I could focus maybe on some of those areas.
I was at a conference at MIT and in their age lab out there, and the gentleman that was giving the speech had an ice cream cone on this PowerPoint slide. Every slide had an ice cream cone on it.
Mhm.
And his closing statement was that elderly mobility was not about doctor's appointments and grocery shopping and that sort of thing. It was about a chocolate ice cream cone when you wanted one.